This game is heating up, folks. Frank squares up like a butcher block on defense. Audie with the fadeaway. She's on fire! Literally, that is. The net has been burned to a crisp.
We're back and stronger than ever. TPI Composites is bringing jobs back to Iowa, building the future of clean energy with the power of wind. Wind powers the world, and here in Iowa, it powers growth, jobs, innovation, and opportunity for generations to come. When we build here, we fuel something bigger, a cleaner future, a stronger workforce, a legacy that will last. TPI Composites. We're back, Iowa, powering the world.
Iowa Deer Classic, March 7th through the 9th, Iowa Event Center, Des Moines. Now, 3 levels of hunting and shooting gear, land management, outfitters, and more. Big buck and shed contests, seminars, celebrities, archery shoots, family shows. Get tickets, win prizes at iowadeerclassic.com.
2 guys, 2 Chris's, 1 network. Iowa Everywhere. It's time for 2 Guys with Chris Williams and Chris Hassel. Presented by Fareway Meat and Grocery from the Channel Seed Studios. Where? Everywhere. Live and always on demand at Iowa Everywhere.
Good morning. Welcome to Iowa Everywhere. Welcome to 2 Guys.
You got a little frog in your throat.
A little bit of a. It's so cold out, dude. It's gonna be like absolutely brutal.
I just got a text from our friend Eric Murphy, who lives up in the Minneapolis area, and sent a picture of the temperature, which is minus 15, and he said, quote, colder than a covenant of 𝗀栀's titties.
That's perfect.
Can you explain this to me, Williams? So last week we had a delay for about the same temperature. This morning there was nothing. Are we just seasoned into it now? Like, these kids can freeze waiting for the bus or what?
Yeah, and we had this situation last week where they canceled all the school a day in advance before it even snowed. And if that were the case, like on the 5th snow of the year, we'd just let it roll.
Wait a second. I didn't think you guys even had school today because it's a holiday.
Oh, we got school today.
Really?
Yeah.
Downs says his kids don't have school.
No, we have school today.
Yeah, so...
That's weird. I don't know. We have school
so
today.
I was looking at the schedule, and I was like, what the hell? Why are the Iowa women playing at 11 a.m. today? And then Murph was like, well, it's a holiday. Like, what? Really? President's Day is not a real holiday to me. If you don't get it off work, it's not a holiday. Nobody gets President's Day off work unless you work for the government. And Downs is like, my kids are off.
All those people are getting fired, so
yeah, they're off for other reasons. I don't know. I think it's a fake holiday. I mean, it's like Valentine's Day. I mean, it's made up. It's fake. You don't get the day off. Like, what? You wouldn't play a day game on Valentine's Day if it fell during the week.
Aren't the banks off today?
Yeah, if you work for governments, banks, that sort of thing. Yeah.
Why do the bankers get the day off?
God knows. Because they made all the rules originally.
But they don't work in the
banker.
government.
Yeah, I don't really know. What are you wearing there? It looks like you're prepared for that minus 14 weather.
They're on a cardigan over the flannel.
It's like Mr. Rogers.
I actually love this cardigan. I wear this thing like 4 days out of the year. Today's one of them, baby. I pulled it out for the first time this week.
I had to put a long sleeve on when I took Nori to the park because it's only 68.
Poor bastard.
It had been, the high here has been 85 for 2 straight weeks, but it cooled off a little bit today.
We're excited. We're coming down to see Uncle Chris in June. Bringing the kids down.
Yeah, your daughter's very excited about that.
My daughter turned 10 yesterday, and one of her gifts, we're taking her down to Uncle Chris's house.
Not really.
Well, we were not invited to stay at Chris's house, so we're getting an Airbnb.
Yeah.
But we're going to come down and see Uncle
Wait,
Chris.
what month is it again?
June.
Down to
June
Del
what?
Boca Vista.
Del Boca Vista.
What? June what?
The concert we're going to is June 21st. I've told you this.
Oh, boy.
We're going to see an Avril Lavigne concert.
I have to run this by my wife.
Well,
I felt like that
she was
date
very
changed.
excited.
But
She
yeah,
was very
Avril
excited.
Lavigne.
Yeah.
Have you listened to Avril Lavigne lyrics with your daughter?
She's a skater girl. Said, see you later, girl.
Well, that was one of her first songs, yeah.
Skater boy, but
Yeah, Skater Boy.
I got,
Yeah.
but Cammy got a sweatshirt yesterday that says skater girl on it. And then it's got, I think I'm a good parent. The back of it's got like two like skulls on it with skateboards.
Yeah, she's a punk rocker. I mean, she's some of her newer stuff has some pretty hardcore curse words in it. I mean,
Well, you
nothing
know.
you wouldn't hear here on Two Guys, but
My daughter is the coolest 10-year-old on the planet. She sits around listening to like vinyl records of Alanis Morissette, Avril Lavigne. Like she's a badass. She's so much cooler than I am.
clearly.
That's why it's why we're coming down to see Uncle Chris. That's all we're doing for her birthday. We are presented
hang on
as
a
always
second.
by Fareway Meat
We
and
got a
Grocery.
good comment here from Nicholas who says that you are showing a slight resemblance to an AIDS victim with a bald head, thinning physique, and the cardigan to stay warm.
Well, I don't know if I have AIDS, but when you do lose
There's
a
no
little bit of weight,
T in AIDS.
there is something I have learned. When you lose a little bit of weight,
Yeah?
you are inherently colder. All
That's
the
why
time.
those old people,
No, I'm
those
serious.
thin
Like-
old people have the thermostat on 83.
Like I'm cold all the time compared to what I used to be. Like and I'm just getting older. I think that I can see why all these bastards moved to Florida though. In Arizona, you know,
Of course.
the hell out of here.
And pretty soon there's going to be no state income or no property tax.
Well,
down
then our
here in
guy
Florida.
Randy Peterson, who's watching, he moved north.
Yeah.
He's like, that's how tough Peterson is. He's like, I got to go north.
Yeah, he sent me a text, minus 13 in 𝗀𝗏𝗏𝗄 right now.
Jeez, it's brutal.
Feels like minus 26.
you know what they don't have in Florida?
Fairway.
No, they don't have Fairway.
They have shitty meat down there. You have to just eat seafood when you're in Florida because the meat sucks. The pork sucks. The beef sucks. Unless you get a meat box from Fairway delivered straight to your front porch. Everything sucks in Florida, meat-wise.
You need a new meat box, Hassel? You're running
I
low?
mean, I would never turn one down.
Brian?
Yeah, I'm way out of meat. Way out of meat. We
You
used
don't
to
even
have,
know how to cook it. That's the problem.
Well, my wife does though.
It's true.
And now you got the
God bless
potato warmer to go with it.
Yeah,
So you got
I've
steak and potatoes.
The
thanks to
Shawnee
Shawnee
Jenks
Jenks.
potato warmer.
I love how you just have it sitting right on your desk.
It's still sitting here on my. Hi, I'm a potato warmer, and I'm never gonna be used because I'm at Hassel's house.
We're in the Channel Seed Studios, of course. Also, would like to invite everybody to come out to the Big Bash on Friday night. Matt, you got that? You got that little graphic? There you go. Coming up at the Irish at West Glen. It's pretty informal. It's just people getting together. We'll have pizza. I did get a tip. Our friends at Game Day Men's Health are going to do a cool drawing where we're gonna have like a drawing, and whoever wins it, they're gonna give a framed NFL jersey to. That's kind of their thing. If you've been to Game Day Men's Health,
Yeah,
you have
got a lot of
Hassel.
that. Yep.
Yeah, so we're gonna do that coming up.
Van Winkle is going to give away his signed Brock Purdy jersey.
Not a chance. Not a chance.
So Hassel,
Well, hey.
you were on the road this weekend.
My dad's coming. He
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
is coming to that event. Is your dad?
I don't think so. No.
Okay, my dad will be there in my stead.
So Dawn is coming. I invited Dawn to stay at my house. He chose a hotel. I respect that. Probably a good move on his behalf.
Well, because
let's be honest.
you wouldn't answer him. Like he was asking you all these
Chris,
questions.
I don't just sit on my phone at the beck and call of 15 text groups all day long. Okay, I'm sorry. I was going to answer everybody. I always answer everybody. It just takes me a while sometimes.
He got
Back
so
off.
pissed. He was like, "I'm not even going to come. I'm not even going to come anymore. He's not
I'm
answering
sorry,
my questions."
I'm not like at your beck and call, Dawn. I told you I'd buy all your drinks and that you could stay at my house.
I like how when you say his name, it sounds like he's a woman named Dawn. D-A-W-N.
Williams and I were at a function together on Friday, and I think every other question somebody came up to us was about Don. Is
Really?
he real?
People love, and this
Is
was
he
an
real?
Iowa State Alumni Association event.
He might be the biggest draw of everybody there.
Oh, I guarantee he will. It's not might. He will be. We need to give him like a name tag in his own booth.
Are
So-
you Don?
Here's another thing that happened over the weekend. My mom texts me. So my parents have one of the, like a lot of these parents, they'll like share an account, like a Facebook account. It'll say like Mike and
yeah.
Renee Williams because all of a sudden, mom's like, Chris, your dad and Don Hassel are now Facebook friends.
Well, we know my dad likes to request anybody and everybody.
So what happened is my mom added your dad. 'Cause
Oh.
I think my mom is trying to build a bridge because she's like, you know, I know how important Chris is to you, and we need to squash this. Your dad and Don, they might be on opposite ends in the spectrum politically, and your dad might be a Busch Light drinker, and Don's got his pinky in the air drinking cocktails all the time. But it's important that they're friends.
See, my dad used to be a Busch Light drinker. That's all he would drink.
Really? All
yeah.
right.
But then, when he would start visiting me and we'd go out and he would just order whatever cocktail I was ordering. And now, even when he's not drinking a cocktail, he calls it ultra light, but it's Michelob Ultra.
Oh.
He doesn't have Busch Light anymore. He only does Michelob Ultra.
I tell you, that Mick Ultra is a good beer, though.
It's not bad.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like water,
Yeah,
like Busch Light.
So, okay, Don's coming to town. The dads are now Facebook friends. We'll see where that goes. We have to start with, actually, Drake's the top story today, in my opinion.
Yeah, that's
That
too bad.
Heartbreaking loss to Bradley on Sunday. That was a stinger. That in the last shot, like, God, I mean, that's going to go in like 8 out of 10 times on that final play. I mean, but this is kind of what we were talking about last week. Right, Chris? Like now they're in a spot where you almost have to run the table in
Yeah,
St. Louis.
I think you do. I think you have to have any chance now after losing to Bradley. You have to win every game the rest of the regular season and probably get to the conference championship game, have a good showing with any chance of getting an at-large. Anything short of that, you're going to have to win the Valley
a great
Tournament.
game.
Great atmosphere. Listen, Bradley is really good. I saw them firsthand earlier on this season. They have what I think is the best team in the Valley, most talented team, I guess I should say. The most seasoned, other than Ben Jacobson, coach, but Brian Wardle's had more success than Ben Jacobson lately. It's a testament to Ben McCollum that Drake is even in this position. But Bradley's the more talented team. And they got a huge road win yesterday. I think Bradley's going to be their biggest competition in the Valley Tournament. No disrespect to Northern Iowa, but I think it's Bradley.
I couldn't agree more. So that sucked. And then shortly after, Iowa tips off and gets out to a 4-point lead at halftime against Maryland. And it's starting to think, like, you're starting to go, well, this is interesting, right? Because they just got that road win at Rutgers.
Mm-hmm.
They're dismantled by injuries right now. They've got like 3 like legit dudes that are out, 4 if you count guy hadn't played all year, and then outscored 54-24 in the second half.
Almost impossible to even fathom that you were leading They were leading at halftime, and the game was out of reach by like the 12-minute mark. Maryland wins it 101-75. Both teams in the first half shot 57%. And that's the problem with Iowa. Like, you have to shoot like an insane percentage from the floor to even be in any games, to have a chance to win a game. But that's not really sustainable for Iowa against a decent defensive team in Maryland. It's sustainable, though, for teams that play against Iowa. Maryland ended up shooting, 58% from the floor? They were 12 of 26 from deep. So this is... Tell me if you believe me or not when I say this.
Okay.
Is it possible that this is the fourth team this season that has set its all-time Big Ten conference game scoring record against Iowa this season? The fourth team. You know Wisconsin did it earlier this year. Remember that?
Absolutely.
Scored like 190 points against Iowa. Wisconsin's been playing Big Ten ball for over 100 years. It was the most points they've ever scored against a Big Ten opponent in conference play. Maryland did that last night. And it also just so happens that USC and UCLA did the same thing. Obviously, they're in their first year, but USC scored 99, UCLA scored 94. In any of their dozen games, they haven't scored that against anybody else. So there's 14. When you check the record books of 4 of the other 17 Big Ten opponents, you will find their single game scoring record in conference play set this year against Iowa. And there's a chance they still have to play Oregon and Washington. There's a chance that those two teams could do it as well.
Let me give you some numbers here. In Big Ten play only, so this doesn't count any of the non-conference games that these teams often rack up these statistics. Iowa ranks dead last in the following categories.
Dead last in the Big Ten?
Yes.
Okay.
Defensive efficiency, effective field goal percentage, 3-point defense, and 2-point defense. They're dead last in every category.
Are they not dead last in rebounds as well?
Offensive rebound percentage, yes. Dead last. Yep. Sorry, I missed that one.
And one of the things that...
It's bad, too, man. I would love to know, since conference play started, only where they would be nationally. I would have to look that up. But it's horrible. Opponents are basically shooting 40% from 3 against Iowa in Big Ten play. The whole team. They're 60% from 2. They're not guarding anybody. Shockingly bad. To throw insult to injury, the Rutgers win, quad 2.
Yeah.
No longer a quad 1 win for Iowa. They've dropped out. So Iowa's back to 0-10 in quad 1 games.
0-10? Jesus.
Yeah.
Well, what
6-0 against quad 2 teams. 0-10 in quad 1.
What blows my mind, too, when Iowa has games like this, is what Fran McCaffrey will say after the game. I went and I listened to...
I didn't listen yesterday. What did he say?
Well, they didn't post the press conference.
It was hard as shit to find, because nobody covers these games anymore.
Yeah.
We used to have these Big Ten road games. There'd be 3 local reporters there. Nobody does it anymore, and I get it.
And the athletic department usually doesn't post a press conference from a game like this where you get beat really bad. But I heard the Bobby Hansen interview with him, and it's the same thing I hear from McCaffrey after every game like this, when he's asked about a total collapse and you're giving up 99, 100 some points, you can't stop anybody. And the first thing he says is that the problem starts on offense. He says that he always says this, we started quick shooting it. He never has anything to say about the defensive performance or the effort on defense or anything defense. It's always something about the offense changes, and that's why they give up 100-plus points. I get that they couldn't stay with Maryland because they were maybe quick shooting it and couldn't keep up and didn't get into the bonus because they weren't driving to the hoop. But this is not an offensive problem. But after every game like this, it's always, the offense tailed off a little. This is not an offensive problem. Anybody can see that. Anybody.
He's not wrong. They are his analytics are correct. They have the shortest amount of possessions.
But that's what they do.
Yeah,
they did. That's what they were doing in the first half too, when they scored 55 points or whatever. They were quick shooting every possession.
Yeah.
It's just they were making them in the first half, and in the second half they weren't.
Got published this morning. 𝗙𝗪𝗪𝗃 wrote a column. It was his introduction, print-wise, in my opinion, to the should Fran McCaffrey be fired conversation.
Mm-hmm.
And what I took from it, it was really in-depth. Like, it was long. I would say it's well worth any Iowa fan or anybody interested in this even reading it. And I kind of had, like, this thought that came to me at the end. And at the end of the day, this is entertainment, right? Like, we watch sports for entertainment, and the apathy thing, it kind of makes sense when you think of it this way. Like, if name a show, Succession, Game of Thrones, like any of these shows that you would sit down and watch for your entertainment purposes, if you know the ending at the end of every season, like if you haven't changed the ending to the series, like, right, like let's say, it's this show's been going on for 10 years, billions, and the ending ends the exact same way with the exact same story every year, you're going to quit watching. And I just feel like that's where we are with Iowa basketball. Because at the end, and Chad raises a good point, like if let's say you want to go out and buy out Darren DeVries, well, if he, that might be a north of $5 million buyout, then you have to buy Franz out. Like, then all of a sudden you're looking at $10 million in buyouts, and like there's more to this equation than just fire the guy. At the end, Chad goes, well, what if you just wait and give him one more year and see how it goes? No. And my point is that, and that wasn't what Chad was saying. He was just giving the options.
Sure.
Well, I just think, like, fans, like, I've watched this series, like, just put it in entertainment terms. You just know how it's going to end. Even if they would get into the tournament, like, I know how this is going to end. And
sure.
That's why nobody will go. Just trying to dumb it down.
That's how I felt about just that game last night in particular. I felt like I knew how that game was going to end. Even though Iowa was up by 4 at halftime, they could not stop Maryland. And I knew that there was no way that Iowa could keep performing at that level offensively against a decent defensive team. And Maryland just almost at every position has an advantage. I mean, they are so much more. Maryland's a good team, so talented, and the line was, I think, Iowa minus 4.5 at halftime, and I was fast to go Maryland. Maryland minus 4.5 because they were favored by 10.
Did you listen to my?
I was fast. I'd jump on that.
Good. Did you see my CW pod or listen to it with Chad?
Yes.
Okay, so if you guys haven't, like
I listened to it until you started talking about NASCAR.
Yeah, well, that's fine. The Iowa portion of it. That's what I.
Yeah.
I just think this is another thing that we have to talk about here, and this is why I thought some of my comments about Iowa basketball got taken out of context. I just think there's more to it. Like, if they're going to go and get a real coach, like a good coach that will excite the fan base, we're going to talk about this with you here coming up, they're going to have to show that they're going to commit in the NIL space to basketball.
Yeah.
Right? So, like, if let's say it's DeVries, again, like, I think that's who everybody would put as their first choice. I mean, I would, like, if I'm an Iowa fan. Like, Darren's not going to just leave that situation if he's going to be in the same NIL situation that Fran has been in. So, like, I just wonder, like, how much are they willing to commit to basketball? Because that's going to impact. These coaches now look at that just as much, if not more, as to what they're going to make. Because they're going to make money everywhere.
But it's going to be totally different now because the Iowa basketball program hasn't been getting any NIL money because the fans aren't invested in Fran McCaffrey's team. Now, no matter who you bring in, that's going to drum up more excitement, more dollars. Plus, there's money now that's going to be coming from the athletic department.
Yeah, but like you only have so much because of that cap thing.
I understand that, and you're going to give as much as you can to football, and the women's basketball team is going to take some away from that as well. But that's not a problem exclusive to Iowa. The Iowa basketball team is going to have a lot more money moving forward after a Fran change than it does right now, no matter who they bring in.
Correct. But will that be – I'm just saying, like, I wonder where they are willing to go.
Well,
to bring in a really
you
good
brought
coach.
up Darren DeVries. And so I don't know that they could get him to leave West Virginia because he's going to have the numbers in front of him of what West Virginia is already doing. And is he really going to leave that to come to a place that's a much bigger question mark for fan support and NIL dollars? Now, I know that's a Big 12 school, and they're not making as much money as the University of Iowa, but they also don't have to worry about their women's basketball team taking a bunch of NIL money.
And wrestling.
Great point. Wrestling. I feel like
wrestling's going to basically fundraise on their own across
and this
the
is
board,
what
but
I've been saying for a year, that these fan collectives aren't going to go away because they're still going to need money from the fans to pay above and beyond what the school is paying, whether it's wrestling or women's basketball, whatever. I don't know if they'd be able to drag DeVries out of West Virginia. And I'm not so sure that Darren DeVries is my number one guy anymore after some conversations I had over the weekend with some very basketball savvy guys whose opinions I really trust, especially in the coaching world.
This is intriguing to me.
I am moving more into the McCollum space.
Really? Wow.
So
okay.
I there's a few coaches just from calling a bunch of games over the years that I respect more than just about anybody, and I know that they're geniuses, and I know that they're great coaches. The two of them are Grant McCaslin, who was at North Texas. I called probably 30 of their games. Now is at Texas Tech, and they're fighting for a 2, 3, 4 seed in the NCAA tournament. The other is Dusty May, who was the head coach at FAU, and he led FAU to the Final Four. Those guys, when they have coaching questions, according to my good buddy Mike O'Donnell, who's on the ground calling 3-4 games a week, when those guys have coaching questions, they call Ben McCollum to ask, what should we do here?
Wow.
They respect him so much because they all kind of came up together. They were all in the, Ben was in the D2 space. Those guys were in the G5 space, low G5 at Conference USA. And Mike was telling me that Ben was like the smartest of the bunch. He's like the guy that they all look up to and know that he is the smartest basketball mind. And what he's doing at Drake with those guys is, forget the loss yesterday.
Yeah, that makes no difference.
I think he might be the best option. He's a smaller buyout at Drake than you would be Darren at West Virginia. A much better chance to get him because he's already, he's only in the Valley and he's already in state and he's ascending in his coaching career. He's proven that he can win championships. And D2 is nothing to...
Yeah, the D2 thing means nothing to me. There's really good coaches at all these levels. Yeah, like that's the case in football too. Like there's a lot of FCS coaches that when you bring it, they could coach at the next. McCollum could have moved up. It's not
he was
like
waiting for the right opportunity.
Yeah,
Drake
it's not like he
just
stayed at Northwest just because he couldn't get an opportunity. He was comfortable there. He liked it there, and he waited for the right time to jump. Interesting. I did not think you were going to go that direction.
I didn't either until I had long conversations about this with Mike and some coaches. The only thing that gives me pause with McCollum is there are facts here, and the fact is that Drake is the slowest team in the country in tempo. And that scares Iowa fans who remember Todd Licklider, and that didn't work. And one of the byproducts of that would worry me is recruiting to that kind of system this day and age. Like, can you really recruit top talent
Well,
if they're not playing, they're not going up and down the court all the time.
And the dynamics of all that changes when you go high major too. It's so much easier to be a system coach at the mid-major level because most of those players, I mean, look at like Jacobson now. I know they've tallied off, but it's the same conversation. Like Jacobson has had an immense amount of success at Northern Iowa. I think he made a really good move to stay at Northern Iowa when he did. I don't know if it would have worked in the Big Ten. I don't. The McDermott Iowa State thing is a great example. Like, it's this guy who tried to do the exact same thing that he was doing with really like smart like farm kids at Northern Iowa, comes to Iowa State. He's all of a sudden got Otzelberger out there recruiting like the AAU guys out of California and Chipola Community College, and it didn't work. They didn't like process the game in the same way. So that is a real concern there but I also think Ben, in my mind, I've watched his Northwest games. Didn't you call some of his Northwest?
No, I haven't called any of his games, no.
I feel like he's smart. I feel like he's a good enough basketball guy where he could maneuver his system a little bit. I feel like the best coaches are the ones that will change their system based on the players they get.
And when you watch Drake, I don't see the Todd Lickliter Iowa era. Even though those players that he has right now at Drake, were not near as talented as the players Lickliter had at Iowa. I know you can laugh at that, but other than John Lickliter, this Drake team, it's remarkable what he's doing with this group of guys, many from Division II. I saw one comment earlier it's from Bram, to go get the Bradley head coach. And Brian Wardle, the Bradley head coach, is actually one of the guys that I would have on my short list to interview if I'm Beth Getz. I mean, I've had the opportunity to call several of their games and been able to sit down with him and talk basketball. This is a guy that he lives in reality. He knows exactly who he is, who they are, where they fit in the pecking order, the issues that they have getting the best players and fighting in that state of Illinois that is run by the Fighting Illini. And they have been a great program under him. He's stayed for 10-plus years. They've won championships.
Is he charismatic?
He's still young enough. He's charismatic. Players love him.
Yeah, you got to have that.
He's just a really good guy, too. Like, I would 100% throw my support around him if he was the next Iowa head coach. I feel like he's been waiting for that kind of opportunity, and he's a Milwaukee guy. He gets really good talent out of the Milwaukee area, has a good pipeline there. We know how important.
Go head-to-head Milwaukee?
Well, no, I don't want to. No,
let's go.
We know how many guys are from Milwaukee that Iowa State has gotten over the years, thanks to TJ. There's a lot
so many players there.
There's a lot of players in that area, and he's done a great job getting some of those guys to Bradley.
He feels like he would fit well in Iowa
He's
State.
45 years old.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a Midwest guy. He was born in Illinois. He played at Marquette, was a really good player for Marquette, and then he's worked his way up. He was at Green Bay for 5 years, and now he's been at Bradley for 10 years. So it's not a guy that's like just constantly trying to move up the ladder. I mean, he found a good spot. He knows that they have it. They've got great fan support there at Bradley, and he's one of those guys I think that should at least get a call from Beth Getz.
All right. Well, this story is not going away, so we'll move on. I do want to thank a new sponsor on the program, TPI Composites, which is located in Newton. They're reopening their production facility. Wind powers the world, baby. Here in Iowa, wind is powering job growth. You can search TPI Composites on LinkedIn or simply visit tpicomposites.com and click on career opportunities. I was sitting at the game in Ames on Saturday, And Quentin from Freedom Tire came up and shook my hand.
Oh,
Got to
yeah?
meet him. I'd never met him before. That was my first time meeting him. That was cool. And nice conversation with him and his son. And he wanted me to thank all of our listeners and viewers who have been using Freedom Tire for all of your car needs, service. Of course, tires in the name, but they do all sorts of service and all that great stuff with locations all around the Des Moines Metro and, of course, the one up in Ames as well. Last but certainly not least, Matt and I spent a lot of time at the Iowa Event Center. We forget about how beautiful the area with all the ballrooms and all that stuff is that they've got going on. There's so much. I don't know about you, Matt. I always just think of Wells Fargo Arena.
Yeah.
When we do our Iowa Event Center reads, but there's so much more going on there. They had their home and garden show happening
busy over there. Did you know in the month of February alone, they have 8 galas in the Iowa Event Center?
You go gala? You don't go gala?
Yeah,
Gala.
this was a big debate on Friday night.
George Gala?
I'm a huge gala guy. That's what I say it, but others say gala.
Either or.
I say gala.
Not there's anything wrong with saying gala.
Not that there's anything wrong with that.
Matt did a good job as the MC. Him and Bloom were up there bebopping and scatting all over that crowd.
Yeah, I saw a bunch of pictures. You guys look good.
Yeah.
Thanks. Good time.
And then
Had the guitar in the back.
Yeah, look at that limp guitar.
Yeah, it's kind of a J-curve guitar.
Yeah.
Have you heard of the J-curve penis?
It's just when your penis is curved, right?
Yep, it's an issue. If you notice,
You've got experience.
If you watch closely, there are now commercials for J-curve penis.
Why does it become curved? What?
I don't. Some kind of medical condition.
Kenzo was talking about this on Overthinking Mondays at noon.
She was.
Wait, what? How did I miss this?
Remember they were talking. Weren't they talking about? Oh, maybe that was something else. They were talking about you can have an extension put on.
Oh yeah, that was
that's
totally
what that
different.
was. But I guess
Maybe they'll talk J-curve today.
You just piqued a lot of people's interest.
Can Game Day treat the J curve?
I actually bet Game Day Men's Health has a solution for a J curve.
They could probably put you on the right track at least.
They do give you shots, for people who can't get it up. It's like a real thing.
Now, will they be giving out tee shots at the party this week?
I don't know if they're going to be giving out.
A lot of parties have kissing booths or picture booths. We're going to have a tee shot booth.
Jello shots with
You
tea.
get some testosterone.
Oh, you've got a J curve? Come on in, we'll fix that.
That's at the Game Day Men's Health booth at the Iowa.
Speaking of tees, there were a lot of tees at Hilton on Saturday.
Yeah, they were great.
Yeah,
great
how many
segue.
technicals? What were there, like 5?
5. But good reminder, though, Overthinking today at noon, 1 o'clock today. And then Murph and Andy will be at 1. Overthinking at 12, Murph and Andy at 1. Here on Iowa Everywhere. Mackenzie's watching on the chat. She says we will not be talking about the J curve today. Or maybe we will. I don't know. Mike says there's going to be a J curve inspection booth at the party. You have to drink 4 beers and then you get to enter.
Did anybody else have an issue turning on this game and not knowing which team was which?
I didn't have that issue, but I was there, so
it's true. You turn the thing on, and there's a wide shot, and there's one team in red, and there's another team in black, and I thought that Iowa State was in black for the opening tip-off.
Yeah, it's the school colors, so I would see why you would be.
They wear black more. They wear black jerseys at home more than they wear these red jerseys at home. But what was it? A Cardinal out?
Yeah, it was Color It Cardinal Day.
Color It Cardinal.
That was a fun-ass game to be at. I don't know if it came across on television the same way it was there. But there was so much that happened in that first half that just got it. That place was just really, really amped up. Super physical game. Jizzle James was just unbelievable.
I still can't believe he goes by Jizzle.
Well, is that on his birth certificate?
I don't know. I mean, I guess You could shorten it to jizz.
Really good friend of mine, like PhD scientist, like not sophomoric like our group chats. He texts me right after that game. He goes, honest question. Why would anyone name their son Jizzle?
His name's not Jizzle. It's Edgerrin.
Okay. What is it?
Edgerrin?
Yeah. He's named after his dad.
Wait, Edgerrin James is his dad?
Yes.
Yes. You didn't know that?
No, I did not know that.
Yeah,
I thought he
James'
was
son.
like LeBron's cousin or something.
No. It's Edgerrin James's son.
Okay, yeah,
Son
I
of
didn't know that.
11-year NFL running back and Pro Football Hall of Famer.
So it's Edgerrin James Jr. and he goes by Jizzle.
I love
But
it.
like it says Jizzle everywhere. Like the media guide, he's Jizzle.
I don't know that that's appropriate.
Well, certainly not appropriate the way he was shaking down Iowa State defenders there for a while. He was awesome. He put on a clinic. One of the best individual performances you'll see in Hilton all year. The guy was unbelievable. But the problem was Iowa State was just a better team. But that game, Chris, the 5 technical fouls, and then I don't think I've ever seen what I saw at halftime. So TJ Otzelberger grabs Tony Padilla, the lead official.
Grabbed him?
Well, like it was cordial. It wasn't like but he from what I understand, TJ just wanted clarification on what Keyshawn Gilbert did or said to get the technical foul about halfway through the first half. And it turns into this like 3-minute conversation in the middle of the floor. Shannon from KCCI got really good footage of it. Yeah, here it is, right? This is at halftime. So as you can imagine, the crowd is watching this. And it starts to get like really uncomfortable.
Because it's like right in the middle of the court.
Yeah. And then Padilla turns around and again, this just kept going on. I actually think they delayed the halftime entertainment by like a minute or two because this took so long. And Padilla just gets booed like crazy. Because in my opinion, like there were a lot of weak tees. Like it was really sensitive officiating. Like I don't think that Wes Miller should have been teed up in the second half. Like the whole thing was just really soft.
It was tough to watch in the second half. With
the
30
tees and
free throws, and Iowa State benefited from that big time.
Iowa State got a great whistle in the second half of that game.
So I could see why Cincy was pissed.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I would have been furious, too, if I was a Cincinnati fan. But just a really physical game and went about the way I thought it would as far as Iowa State being able to outlast this team. But that's a pretty good team, though. Like, I mean, you look at Iowa State's win against Central Florida and then that one. Like, Cincinnati's way better than Central Florida in my mind.
Yes.
If you look at the last two. I don't know if they're going to make the tournament or not. They're probably going to be right on the bubble, I would think, at the end of the year, probably on the outside looking in. But Iowa State sets it up. Now you got to play a bad Colorado team on Tuesday. College game day at Houston on Saturday for Iowa State Houston.
I did see an ESPN graphic late Saturday night that had probabilities to make the tournament. And Cincinnati was like 23%. Kansas State was only 15%.
Yeah, they lost the first loss in that streak.
Yeah, they probably needed to keep going. Now they might need to win out Kansas State to get. But you were right on with this Cincinnati team. You thought this would be not a pushover game. Like this that didn't feel like a game where the spread was 10 or 11 points, even though it ended up that way. I mean, Cincinnati played a really good game, and if there was better officiating, and maybe they got the whistle out of their mouths a little bit, that could have been a game in the final 5 minutes for sure.
Iowa State shot over twice as many free throws as Cincinnati. Now they were more aggressive, so they got a few more whistles because of that. But yeah, 30 free throws. Iowa State was 26 of 30 from the free throw line. So.
Rodney brings up a point that I wanted to make. ISU's got to stop turning the ball over so much, he says.
I agree.
And this has been a theme, and the problem is it's not going away. Like, it might go away for a game, and then it's an issue the next game. Like, when is the last time they have put together a group of 3 games where they're not turning the ball over? Because that's what they're going to have to do in the tournament. If you want to get to the Elite Eight or the Final Four, you can't keep playing this way.
Completely agree. And a lot of them were on Saturday were like these weird unforced ones where it's just like,
we saw that from them
injury.
earlier this season. There was a game. God, who were they playing? It was a big game earlier on in the season, and I think it was '𝗺𝗵𝗹𝗃 kept harping on it. He was like, these aren't even forced turn. Iowa State was playing well in the game. They won that game that I'm referencing. I just can't remember who they were playing. But he's like, these turnovers by Iowa State, they're just kind of like screwing around. They're not forced.
No. I mean, it's been pre-Milan injury since they had that stretch that you're talking about. This is the problem, too. Iowa State has always had this, like, well, not always, but like last year's team, you were no doubt every game you could count on being a top 3 or 4 defense in the country. They're a very good defense this year, but they're not that good.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like, they've given up some of that defense for better offense with their bigs and stuff like that, which is fine. I would take that. I guess my whole point is that it's starting to feel like this isn't a revelation here, but their height, their peak is a lot higher, obviously. But I don't know if they have that just base, because what they did last year, they never turned it over.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they would be 10 or fewer turnovers every game, and they would always turn you over 15 to 18 times, so you're just getting all these extra possessions and extra points. Well,
and
now,
some of this is a byproduct of the way they're playing this year, because they
playing
have more offensive
faster
weapons.
But the problem is when you're turning it over, though, it weakens your defense because you're giving up live ball transition points.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So, like, you're giving up on both sides. I don't. It is. I'm really worried about it as far as, like, I think that they can, get to the point where they're a 2 seed playing the way that they are right now. But, man, like, my goal is for this team to play in the Final Four. You're going to beat Auburn. You're going to beat Duke. You cannot be turning it over in the 15 times per game range that they've been doing it. And this is fun, though, right? Like, where you're still winning games by double digits.
Yeah.
And you can work on this stuff, but I can't argue.
Should be the same thing this next game against Colorado.
I cannot argue with you, though, Chris, that, like, I'm legitimately concerned about it now, because we're not, like, and this maybe was a bad take at the time. I felt like it was smart at the time, but, like, when they lost to Kansas, I wasn't that worried about it, because I'm like, man, they only turned it over 7 times. That's an improvement. Against a really good defense on the road. They just didn't make shots. They haven't been able to keep that going. And I don't really care what happens on Tuesday, because they're going to be like nearly a 20-point favorite against Colorado.
Yeah. Colorado just came up with their first Big 12 win in over 10 years.
So the other point to make is, well, they get that Houston game coming up on Saturday, which is massive, but they were a 3 seed in the seeding release.
The top 3 seed.
Yeah, and
which is right. I thought they would be 8 or 9,
so
right on that, and they were.
I think that if they just do what they should do, they will be a 2 seed.
The problem is, though, Houston was the 8, I believe. They were the team right in front of Iowa State, and they just notched another huge win at Arizona, and now they get Iowa State at home. And we had kind of been talking about that game for much of the season as, boy, if Iowa State can get that game, then we're talking 1 seed again. I'm starting to wonder if they might need the Houston game to get a 2 seed.
Would they have potentially, because Purdue lost to Wisconsin?
That was good for Iowa State for sure. But Wisconsin is surging. And Wisconsin is right there, but right there behind Iowa State as a 3 seed.
My question is, on Saturday alone, beating Cincinnati and Purdue losing, is that enough to jump Purdue?
Boy, but was what Wisconsin did enough to jump Iowa State? Right? I mean, they're only a couple spots behind Iowa State. I don't know.
Because I don't think these SEC teams are going to move much.
Well, I was talking with Mike O'Donnell about this. He does not think that this SEC thing is going to end up the way it is with 5 of the top 6 and 3 1 seeds. He does not see the SEC getting 3 1 seeds. He really does believe Houston can jump up there and get a 1 seed. Yeah, and maybe Iowa State runs the table and gets back in that discussion. But I think right now you got to temper your expectations and your hopes if you're an Iowa State fan. Like, just get a 2 seed.
Yeah,
I don't know if you can jump to the 1 because
no way.
You look
unless
at
you
look
don't
at
lose a game the rest of the way. Like
look
if you
at
win the Big 12 tournament.
high level wins. We talked about this on Thursday. The new metric that they're using, quad 1A victories, and Iowa State only has a couple of those.
And Kansas is cratering right now.
Yeah, Kansas is going to be lucky to get a top 4 seed. But you're going to have what? You have the opportunity at Houston. That is get that game, and I think there's a really good chance you'll be a 2. Assuming you take care of business at home against Arizona and BYU, and that's not.
And you have to go to Kansas State.
Right. That's a hard
game.
This is a tough 5-game closeout here. After the Colorado game, yeah, you got Oklahoma State, but it is a road game. But you've got Houston 3 in the net, Arizona 9 in the net, BYU 36, and then a Kansas State team on the road that has proven they can beat anybody. This is a really difficult stretch.
Over-under wins on that final 5-game stretch for Iowa State. I know what I would put it back. I know what I would put it at. I want to see where you.
Well, on that 5-game stretch, pull that back up again, Van Winks, because a win against Oklahoma State, I think for sure you split the home game, and I would put the over/under at 3.5.
Me too.
But it's going to be juiced. I think it would be juiced to the over. I think it'd be juiced to the over.
Think so?
Because, yeah, I do. Because you almost have a sure win against Oklahoma State, you would think. BYU, you'll be a 8-point favorite. Arizona, you'll be a 5-point favorite. Probably a toss-up at Kansas State, and just a slight dog at Houston. But I'm going to say Iowa State. God, that's I don't know if they win 4 or 5. Or I'm sorry, if they win 3 or 4 of those games.
I would probably put it at 3 the way they're turning it over. But
yeah, and if that's the case, I think it's going to be 3-seed territory. If they only win.
It depends. Yeah, I mean, if you could win, yeah. Let's say you beat Houston, Oklahoma State, and God, but then you got a home loss mixed in there.
Yeah. I think that they can only afford 1 loss the rest of the way to get to that 2 line.
All right, so that's we completely agree. That was exactly where I had landed in my head. Put it at 3.5. If you win 4, you're really happy. 3, it's not the end of the world, but
yeah. And we're not even counting this Colorado game. Like that's
Correct.
Already we've already moved past that game, even though it hasn't even happened yet.
Dangerous territory.
I know this is a bad spot to be a head coach in a game like that.
Houston still has Iowa State, Texas Tech, and Kansas at home, so they've got some decent opponents left too. So,
where's the Texas Tech game?
That is at Tech.
Yeah, it's a tough one there. I really enjoy Arizona being in this basketball league. It's been a really nice addition. You just added another iconic spot. It's been fun.
Mr. 100 says that you guys forget about the Big 12 tournament. The committee just doesn't put much on the Big 12 tournament.
Yeah, we don't forget about it. It's just we're going off of history. Just
the Big 12 tournament could be a helper for a K-State. If
absolutely.
They can get to the
it's more of a thing for these bubble teams to get quad 1 wins.
One of the good things that you need to factor in too, it's good for Iowa State that Kansas is cratered as far as location goes in the tournament.
Yep.
Because that's who one of your biggest competitions for a Milwaukee or Wichita first round opponent, first round game. So that's a good thing. You want them to keep losing. They're not even in the conversation now. So you're probably looking at, I mean, I do think that that's pretty correct. If Iowa State is a 3 seed, you're probably looking at a Purdue 2 seed type thing or Wisconsin, which bring that on. Like, to me, like, if you're going to get any of those
I don't
2
know
seeds,
if I want any part of Wisconsin right now.
Well, I'm just saying matchup-wise for Iowa State, I'd rather have them than Tennessee or, you know, some of these
Yeah,
SEC
I don't know. I
teams.
mean, is the SEC propped up by, you know, kind
I
of
want
what
the
we talk
drama,
about
too.
with football?
I really want Iowa State and Wisconsin. It was so much fun the last time with all the storylines, all these Wisconsin guys. I want it. I want more.
Wait, what was the last time? Refresh my memory on this.
When Iowa State went to the Sweet 16, Otz's first season, they beat Wisconsin
Oh,
in Milwaukee.
okay. I see.
It was
The
it
Tyrese
was
Hunter game.
That was one of the great. Yeah, Tyrese went off.
That was
one of the greatest Iowa State wins of all time, but people don't really remember
Wisconsin is one of the hottest teams in the country. I don't know that you want any part
Thanks
of them.
to Iowa, you guys got them going.
No, that was like it was a long time ago. Wisconsin, let's see. So they just went into Purdue and beat them by 10 points. I mean, at Mackey Arena in a top 15 matchup.
Hey, by the way, did you see the Iowa State Purdue home and home?
Yeah, that's great. I love that.
Very
Need
cool.
more of that.
Yep. Background there, Otz was on Matt Painter's staff for USA Basketball a couple years ago for like the 18 and under or whatever it was. So they have a history there. That's real. And it made me feel good as an Iowa State fan because it that kind of legit makes you legitimate if like a program like Purdue will agree to that. Like that, you're in a different category now. That's awesome because they don't just do that with anyone who they think could hurt, you know.
Right.
So that, cool. 𝗙𝗵𝗹, Kelderman Manufacturing. Let's do it, baby.
Bigger, better, bolder. Built by Kelderman Manufacturing.
We have some fun ones. This week. I'll let you start, Van Winkle, because this is one of my favorite stories of the day. This thing is just going viral, too.
Yeah, what the hell?
Did you watch
my
any of this?
phone started blowing up as I'm at shoot-arounds for my game that I'm about ready to call, and everybody's going nuts about some hockey game. Like, what?
I did not even know this was replacing the All-Star game this year, the Four Nations tournament that's going on. United States.
I don't even know what this is. I was
So
trying to
this-
explain it to my mother-in-law last night, and I couldn't.
So the United States, Sweden, Canada, and Finland are participating in this kind of round-robin style tournament. The USA has already won their first 2 games, so they've clinched a spot in their championship game on Thursday. They played Canada on Friday night. Was it Friday night, Hassel? Saturday night.
I think it was Saturday.
Saturday. And the
Yeah, it was
theatrics of
Saturday
this
night.
were unbelievable. It was happening in Canada, in Montreal, I believe. And the anthem singer comes out to sing the national anthem for the USA, and the crowd just boos.
And there's a lot of geopolitical stuff going
Absolutely.
on right now, which is background. Some of our listeners probably don't pay attention to that, to be honest.
Yep.
There's tariffs and all this stuff. So Canada starts booing during the United States national anthem.
They start booing during the anthem, and then there were 4 fights that broke out within the first 9 seconds of the game. The 𝗀cie brothers, JT Miller got in a couple fights, just unbelievable.
That's awesome.
Did you guys see the NBA All-Star game?
No,
So-
I didn't.
Snoozer.
Matt,
This is awesome.
I was going the
More
same
of this,
way.
please.
Those losers won't if they have a sneeze, those guys won't play. They won't play on back-to-back games. The NBA sucks. I am so over the
LeBron
NBA.
didn't play in the All-Star
Oh my
game.
God.
Draymond
know
Green
that.
said over the weekend the NBA is boring during All-Star
It
game
is.
weekend.
I mean, come on.
I tried to watch.
this-
I
So
tried
the
to watch.
NHL makes this change in the very first year, and they get
But-
this.
These
But
sons of
they're-
bitches are out there throwing hands at this exhibition game to defend their country.
But I just looked up. They're not going to do it next year. They're going
Why is
back
that?
to an All-Star game in Long
What?
Island. Yes. This is a 1-year thing. But they should keep this up.
Oh, my
I think they
God.
might change that. Because they're going back. So then they'll play
I bet when
they'll
they
play
see the
some in
ratings,
Canada.
they'll think
Yes.
about it.
5 million people viewed that game, Canada-USA. USA won pretty easily. And again, they're in that championship game and could be a rematch with Canada on Thursday.
It's just so funny, Matt, because my first reaction when I saw this too was like, God, like compare this to like the NBA players who, like, I don't know, I don't know. I don't know if any of this is right or wrong, but like these guys are out there in a way more dangerous sport in an exhibition, just fighting each other, like a pure passion. And then the NBA, like we can't even play an All-Star game. Like I have no idea what the hell that was last night. It was like a round robin, like draft.
Oh, Rob says that the Winter Olympics are next year. That's probably why.
Okay, but there's an All-Star game still, 2026. So. I don't know.
I don't know. Again, kind of like what I said about Iowa basketball earlier. Like we're all here to be entertained, and this was entertaining.
Absolutely. I grew up a huge hockey fan in San Jose with the Sharks, but I've really tuned out on the NHL. But this is fun. I'll be watching. There's games tonight, and then the championship on Thursday. So
interesting.
Good stuff,
man. Yeah, that was all over in my text threads and all over my social media feed, and I had no idea this was even going to happen.
I didn't either.
Yeah, apparently the USA guys got all ticked off that the Canadians were booing the anthem. So
I love it.
Drop the gloves, let's go.
Yes.
I found out about it because whatever game I was watching, it was the Kansas game. I was watching Kansas-Utah, and SportsCenter came on right after it, and they led with this, and I was like, holy shit.
Wow. Imagine that. The NHL just destroying the NBA in head-to-head All-Star Weekend. Who would have thought that 20, 30 years ago when the NBA was like the one All-Star Weekend that was actually good? Not anymore.
The NBA was the best when we were kids.
Yeah.
God. Where are you going, Hassel?
I am going with the granny shooter. Wofford center 𝗙𝗃𝗏𝗆𝗆 was one of the worst free throw shooters in college basketball history. Could not make a free throw. He had a game in January where he went 0 for 8 from the free throw line. So what does this son of a bitch do? He starts shooting granny style.
Shout out Rick Barry.
Rick Barry, underhanded granny free throws. It looks ridiculous, but it's easier to make shots. And what has he done the past 2 games? He was like 30% for his career. But the past 2 games, 10 for 16 at the free throw line. Shooting granny style. I love this. When guys, bad free throw shooters won't do it. Like Shaq wouldn't do it because it looks ridiculous. And I know that there are coaches that have tried to convince players to do this because it is easier to make. When you're a bad free throw shooter, especially guys with big hands, it's easier to make granny style. It just, most guys won't do it. This guy did. And he's shooting much better because of it. And he kind of blew up over the weekend on social media because of the optic.
Have you ever listened to the Malcolm Gladwell podcast about this?
No.
It's fascinating. I'll send it to you afterwards. Malcolm Gladwell did a podcast about this like 8 or 9 years ago. Like it's scientifically, like it is. You're exactly right. Like because of the range of motion and the amount of like muscles involved and stuff like that.
Do you remember Rick Barry's son, Canyon Barry? Did you ever meet him? He played for the Iowa Energy or the Iowa Wolves for a while, I think.
I've interviewed him before.
He shot free throws underhand too, like his dad, and was really successful. He was like leading the league in free throw percentage.
Just anybody go out there and Google Malcolm Gladwell podcast underhand free throws. It's fascinating. Like according to like these experts he brought on and stuff, like everybody should be doing this. It's just the range of motion.
Well, it's
makes
like
it easier.
I would compare it to if you're putting. Just say you're at the mini golf course or out on the green or whatever, and you're putting only using your wrists. You're going back and through, using your wrist, back and through. Or completely lock it down and don't move your wrists at all, only move your arms, which is how you do putt. There's a lot less range of motion, and it's a lot easier to be consistent than if you're trying to snap your wrists for the putts. It's the same thing.
Mine, I actually have two. I have one main one and then an honorable mention. Keep an eye on this name, 𝗙cie 𝗹𝗹𝗶𝗹. Vanderbilt freshman. Scored a Division I freshman record 55 points against Auburn on Sunday. Now, it went to overtime, so she got a little bonus. But listen to this, and this was what was really crazy to me. She had 53 against Florida on January 30th.
Wow. How many shots is she taking?
She took 28 yesterday. But it's not bad. She's 5'8". She's averaging 21.8 points per game. The previous record was 54, so when she had 53, she was one off. But, yeah, in like two of her last like 4 games, she's had 55 and 53 points. She's a freshman at Vanderbilt.
Wow.
Now, might be asking, 𝗀𝗄𝗎 from Kansas State has the overall D1 record with 61. And she's still playing.
𝗀𝗄𝗎.
What? I'm sorry.
𝗀𝗄𝗎.
Excuse me. Thank you. That was set in 2022. But this 𝗙cie 𝗹𝗹𝗶𝗹 is looking to be like one of the next like great stars in women's basketball. My other one I wanted to mention, Fred Hoiberg in Nebraska. They were down 20 in the second half yesterday at Northwestern. Comes back and wins that game. They look like a tournament team. That's been a fun story in the Big Ten over the last, because people were in our group text, a bunch of our buddies who live over there were thinking he may get fired. Like they were talking about that.
They just gave him an extension after last season.
So, but they're looking like a tournament team at this point.
Yeah, they've won 5 out of 6. They did drop at home to Maryland, but they've won 5 of 6, and they've got some opportunities down the stretch to get in. 7-8 in conference play, 17-9 overall. Yeah, he's done a pretty good job this year. They've been way up and way down.
Yeah.
But they're trending in the right direction right now.
Kelderman Manufacturing giving us 𝗙𝗎𝗶. Today at noon, we have Overthinking with Michaela. Not Michaela. That was the name of the freshman from McKinsey and Scott. 𝗙cie 𝗹𝗹𝗶𝗹. Get that name in your old noggin.
Talking J-curve.
They're going to be talking J-curve penis here on Iowa Everywhere at noon. What are the chances that Murph and Andy talk J-curve penis?
0.
Andy will be talking about that hockey game the whole time, I think.
You're probably right.
I could see Andy really digging.
One time Andy forced his wife to dress up as a hockey player when they were like dating. Made her put on the whole uniform, eye black.
That's totally a fantasy of his.
Yeah, totally.
He made her do that.
He's always wanted to be with a hockey player, and so he made his wife dress up as one.
Michaela Eddie says she's done. No longer doing the show.
Eddie.
All right, good show. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Please rate, subscribe, review, do all that fun stuff for us. We appreciate you very much. We will be back on Thursday. Loaded programs the rest of the day here on Iowa Everywhere.